Hi guys, welcome back to the episode 17 of the Synapse Pod. Today we have Saransh who is back
Hi guys,
from his vacations to the pod. Hi Saransh, how are you?
all good, wonderful.
Fantastic, lovely to have you back, bro. So, and we have Paras and we have Ayush, and I'm your host Siraj. So, guys, today we have interesting things to discuss. I think we are going to deep dive into what's new into tech. We are going to start off, and we discussed this that we're going to discuss Facebook a little with its new launch, the Meta Quest Pro. It's latest in the reality headsets from Oculus, and what it's up to, and its stock price, which has not moved anywhere.
Since 5 years, it has not gone anywhere.
It's actually gone down, right? Since 5 years, yeah. So if we just pull up the listing of the stock price, and you can see that it was stable for a very long time. It hyped during the COVID, and then it definitely went down below, much more below than the last 5 years stock price. So Paras, what do you think? What's happening there? Like, why is Facebook unable to innovate, or whatever the bets it's taking? Is it going to materialize into substantial gains for the shareholder value?
I'm sure, yeah, we'll come to Meta Quest Pro, but since you're talking about the shareholder value, I think the key takeaway for me is that the markets really discount for all the risks very nicely, especially after that Cambridge Analytica fiasco that happened, and the way he was brought to the, what do you call that, Senate.
Yeah.
So he was in the front of the senators there. He was being questioned by people who don't even know what the tech is.
Yeah.
So I think markets have sort of factored in that there are eyes of politicians on this company, and he is playing around with a lot of data. The company is playing around with a lot of data, and as data privacy becomes more and more important, like in a way, data privacy is a enemy of Meta, right? So if data privacy keeps becoming more important, and eventually governments also step in, it'll be very bad for Meta. Other side of thing, I think the trajectory really changed after Apple became very data privacy pro. The ad revenue is what Meta relies on, right?
Yeah.
Essentially. And that profit pool really lies with iOS users, who are now, every time someone installs a Facebook groups app, chooses ask app not to track. A lot of people, I'm sure, do, which essentially just nulls the whole point that with so much data you can predict what the person is going to buy next. Now they don't have that analytics. Though the revenues, it's not like the revenues have started to decline, but I think markets have already factored in that there are things that at macro level are happening. And if you see the trend line, the financial future of the company is also at risk. The meta part of Facebook is, I think, very early into very early stages right now. So probably that's why it's near to what it was, what it used to be, else it would have been probably much more down.
But it is so surprising, like for a company which is upwards of $400 billion in market cap, it suddenly first. Imagine the kind of bad PR it would have gone through, and the kind of sentiment that would have boiled down in the board meetings, right? That, hey, this is a juggernaut that we have built, but the press is so bad that we'll change the name itself, and we'll try to create a new identity of this beast, and hopefully people with short-term memory may forget, right? So
that theory has not worked out.
yeah, at least maybe a short-term effect, but I think 5 years down the line, and this happened with a lot of Indian companies as well, right? Axis Bank was UTI Bank.
I mean, the name change actually does not happen necessarily because of the bad PR. Like we discussed also in one of the pod earlier, that it generally happens because of the structural change which has to come into the company, right? I mean, the head of the Facebook, where next the person can grow into the role. If that role is not there, then the company has to transform into a newer organization, which happened with Alphabet, right?
The umbrella org has to come.
Correct.
Yeah.
The umbrella had to increase.
But is Meta umbrella organization, or it's just a
Facebook app is one of the app now.
Oh yeah, but of course.
Instagram is one, WhatsApp
Exactly,
is one.
right.
Yeah.
So now Meta has multiple.
Future vision of the company as a whole also, right? Like we've seen examples like Grofers being renamed to kind of Blinkit, right? It resonates with what they now give as value. Grofers related to groceries, right? Blinkit is like instant. So when they moved into more of instant delivery, they named themselves as, right, similar. So Meta, obviously, it's to get the larger vision that they'll be focusing majorly on Metaverse, right? So I think that was one major reason. At least that's a story, that's the narrative that they will like to put it around. Obviously there was some element of the brand name being diluted because of multiple issues, which made it even more lucrative to get the name changed. But that I think from a longer goal perspective, it was more aligned to what they want to do 5 years, 10 years down the lane.
No, that's what they are already doing. I think Meta is the biggest metaverse company right now. Like they have all the attention of people in digital spaces. When people are on Instagram, when people are on WhatsApp, when people are on Facebook, they hardly care about what is happening around them. So it is very much the biggest metaverse.
Paras, before we discuss if Facebook is a metaverse company already, Meta is a metaverse company. Can you please explain for the audience as well, like what is the metaverse? Why are people going bonkers about it? Why did a $400 billion juggernaut decided to take its course of action and stream as the metaverse? When is it hitting? When is it happening? What is this mammoth change that's happening in the world?
Sure, I mean, there are multiple ways of looking at it, but I'll tell you the most crude ones. I think metaverse is a big fantasy that of people in tech, which I think the conversations around it got triggered very nicely after Ready Player One, when people saw how like the book all existed since a long time, but Steven Spielberg in 2018 then turned it into a movie, and such a great director turning such a great book into a movie just gave everyone that vision of how a virtual world could look like. And it just had so many possibilities. So there was so much hope, there was so much excitement. It's the next front that people started to see, at least in conversations. I think that Ready Player One movie was sort of the pivotal point, because I meet so many people working on Metaverse, and almost every time at least the founders make a reference to that movie. We got inspired by Ready Player One. We saw what was happening in Ready Player One, or we read Ready Player One.
Or by Snow Crash.
Or by Snow Crash. Snow Crash is another one. So I think fiction has really given the birth to science fiction has given birth to Metaverse. But it so happens that the way we are looking at today's definition, it makes so much more sense to not limit the concept of Metaverse to a 3D virtual world, but extend it to the concept of digital space and time. So what it means is that if at any point of time I care more about my digital space than my physical space, then that moment I am in Metaverse. So for example, if I am on Instagram for 3 hours, I'm scrolling the feed, I'm not caring about what's happening in my surroundings. So I am in the metaverse of Instagram, just that the metaverse is 2D right now. I'm seeing people in there. I'm seeing people doing things in there. It's not like the real world. The rules are different, but I'm very much in that metaverse. So that for me is Metaverse's more inclusive definition. Other one I told you in the beginning, the Ready Player One.
What do you think, Ayush, about this?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we don't know like what's going to be the true metaverse. It's more like Paras said, that it's that tipping point when we start spending more time in digital space and the line gets blurred between our physical presence and the digital presence, right? If you're taking during COVID, we were all taking meetings on Zoom, right? That's being in a virtual space, in a digital space. We're not no more bound by physical limitations of place, time, and all those things, right? So I mean, yeah, that's more like being part of the metaverse. And why Meta or Facebook is trying to take that charge, because they have the biggest user base, they have the largest user base in that digital realm that we are talking about, right? I mean, it's a 2D space right now, it can be a 3D space tomorrow, it can be an immersive AR VR experience. That's like, so Zuckerberg wants to try all those frontiers, from 2D space to AR, and eventually maybe hologram and different other things, right? So that's why they They are like spending $10 billion on metaverse in the coming years, and actually the founder of Sandbox, which is also making one of the metaverse in decentralized manner. So there is a difference in open metaverse and a closed metaverse. If a company owns your data, then it's a closed metaverse. So Sandbox is building an open metaverse. He was saying that $10 billion won't be enough to actually bring metaverse to life, which means
Sebastian, right?
Sebastian.
Sebastian,
So which means it's going to take more resources, more people, and more than one company to actually bring the real metaverse that
Yeah.
people are imagining about.
Yeah.
So we're saying $10 billion
Won't be enough.
Won't be enough.
Won't be enough at all.
to bring metaverse to life.
Correct.
Interesting.
So I was actually reading a little on this new launch that MetaQuest Pro itself and the platform Meta is building. And Zuckerberg continuously mentioned that he believes that the next biggest social platform is a metaverse and not any of the social apps which will come in the next future, right? And and when he said that, so you need first a lot of people to be inside the metaverse with their most user-friendly devices at the click of a button, or actually just picking up the device and wearing it, which gets you immersed inside that instantly for that accessibility, right? With mobile phones, we don't have that accessibility problem. We can just switch on the screen and get inside an app or the social platform, right? So one, I think the accessibility problem will have to be first solved for it to be the next big thing and consumer adoption. That is why when I was also reading the reports, the reports have said that the DAO or daily active users of this metaverse, the Horizon world, which is the metaverse of Facebook inside the Oculus, is not more than 200,000 and has actually declined. So what these people are thinking, either they'll build AI-based NPCs, non-playable characters inside the metaverse for people to interact with, and then actually do the Turing test on it if people can actually guess if that is a real player or not. So they're trying to create that artificial demand because it cannot be a social platform if it is not social and you don't have people. So I think the barrier to accessibility is a major challenge right now. But
I mean, I have a take on this actually. I have a hot take on this, I would say. I think for any platform to take off, it has to start generating money for someone. There has to be economic benefit of that platform to exist. Amazon flew because new sellers started to make more money off it. Smartphone, if you consider smartphone as a platform, when did smartphone really fly? When people started earning money from smartphone.
From apps.
Yeah.
Creators started to earn money.
App Store opened up.
Zomato riders started to earn money. And suddenly everyone thought the person who has not got a smartphone anyway has lesser odds to make money in this world. You see, that is the case right now. So this gradual change has practically come in last 8 years.
Yeah.
2014, not every Tom, Dick and Harry had a smartphone.
Yeah.
Today, they do. 8-9 years, this has happened. Because smartphones started to create money for people. I think the moment any metaverse platform starts to create money for enough number of people, which is also a function of how much economic value is being generated on the platform, I think that's the time it flies. Obsessing over DAUs, MAUs doesn't matter. If money is being found, people will flock.
That's what people are
In
saying.
one way
That
or the other.
e-commerce is going to be the biggest single driver in metaverse.
Possible?
Yeah.
Possible?
So obviously for any social platform to kind of take off, they have to reach some kind of a critical threshold in terms of users, right? So for example, for a Facebook, right, they had to reach a certain number of user base before it really started to get in the network effects and start to scale up. And they obviously did try a lot of other things, but what their niche that they discovered was campuses, right? When they started to unlock campuses where people primarily wanted to use it just to know what the other person is doing or dating or who they are. It kind of started off like a dating website, interest in something, right? And then it started to took off for all the other kind of connections. I think metaverse as a whole is yet to find that one solve one really core problem that a lot of people are able to relate to. And moment that sweet moment comes in, right, that is when people are going to start onboarding onto this platform and start driving that value. It has to start at some point, and that friction has to be low. So for Facebook also, right, when it started to take off, mobiles were not there, right? As such, most of the people were using it on desktops, but desktop internet penetration, at least the internet penetration was pretty decent when they started to kick off in the developed countries. For metaverse right now, whatever different variables are required to enter into the metaverse, those variables, one, are expensive right now, not readily available, and too clumsy also, I'll say. Like Chirag was pointing out, they need to be toned down, maybe in the form of a glass, a very simple, like the kind of glasses that I am wearing, right? Where it's very easy to switch on and off from the metaverse or the real world. That is when you've reduced the friction. And if you solve for one core problem for the larger audience, that is when a lot of people will start coming on it. Only once you have an audience base, then someone would think of monetizing that audience base. Without even having a lot of people, why would I probably even plan on monetizing something out there? That's my take on it.
No, I'm not saying monetizing. See, economic activity can exist without monetization also. Like if you look at Facebook's own marketplace, which is of second-hand goods or something, it's not monetized, but there is economic activity there. So
I mean economic activity, not monetization for Meta. I mean economic activity take place
on the platform. That is basically I was referring to this direction that Meta has taken with respect to going to workplaces first.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic direction.
I think that is the niche that Saransh is talking about, workplaces, right? They went to colleges, Meta is going for workplaces for cross collaboration between remote teams.
The analogy I would say is when Facebook took people from being disconnected to connected.
Yeah.
Now people are already connected. Can you really bet the future of metaverse on the fact that people want to connect in a much more immersive way?
Yeah,
So they will take that one jump.
Yeah.
Probably that's not an answer as simple as that.
Yeah.
Probably there is more to that mystery. So which is where if they take the work route and suddenly a person who's using a Meta Quest Pro or Pro 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that is yet to be followed suddenly starts to become more productive in the org.
Yeah.
And that productivity hike is much more than what the company has invested in getting that person a Meta Quest Pro. You see the pivot happen. Then suddenly freelancers will also pick it up. Then suddenly all these professionals start to pick it up, and then suddenly it will come into the normal life. Just the way laptops did.
But Paras, I also think that one of the core reasons which is lacking in remote teams is serendipity and creativity, right? So they need tools for immersive collaborations which happens face to face in your brainstorming meetings, etc. Now, can you put a dollar value to creativity? Sometimes these hikes of productivity are also very intangible.
Over short term, I would.
But let's say if there is a think tank or a skunk work, right? It is able to produce brilliant ideas since they have used this platform over a period of 6 months or a year. Then okay, fine, you could take a bet.
Yeah, the org would feel it.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be numerical.
And not only that, not only numerical, just in a month's time, you take feedback of people, right? Are you able to brainstorm better as compared to just a whiteboarding app like Miro or something else? Is that causing a change to your output essentially, and that may also help. These were and in fact, when Saransh, you were talking about this, as you were talking about revenue, money making machine. Meta has been making insane amount of money, not only on hardware sales but software sales, specifically of games. So the real niche. So people
games fantastic.
Because games are natural metaverses.
Yeah.
They are individual metaverses of corporates who have built everything end to end, gamification, your upskilling inside the storytelling, the direction, the production, the leveling up, your bloody power ups, everything, right?
I think gaming is the easiest way to onboard like millions of people because of the fun of it, because of the immersive experience, and I mean, even I remember for Facebook and any other social media, like all these small entertainment pieces that these apps built in themselves is what have brought a lot of people onto the platform, right? Even in the open metaverses and different other places that people are working on. I mean, games is the single biggest driver, be it NFTs, be it Sandbox or any other.
That's what that 200,000 DAU is.
Yeah, exactly.
Essentially.
Yeah.
No, in fact, my take is that Zuckerberg is creating an interoperable platform to connect all the games in the world. That's why it's partnership with Microsoft as well. And every single game is going to be a planet in the bigger metaverse. that is why for the first time Zuckerberg is taking a very open approach. Open platform versus closed platforms, right?
Yeah.
Not taking the iOS approach. He's saying I'm building it like an open source project where I am building all tools required for collaboration, meetings, work, gaming, and social.
I mean, it is similar to iOS, right? I mean, iOS gives App Store, people can build on it. Similarly, Meta is saying, I have a store, Microsoft come and build on it. I mean, how is it open?
The difference is that Meta will not control. It will take the decentralized route. It will not control
That's
individual. Yeah, that's what his announcement is.
That's all.
That I am building it like an open platform where I will go on.
Open, he will never use the word decentralized.
Yeah. I mean,
It doesn't.
Facebook has been very notorious with devs in the past also. Let's see how much confidence devs have. this
Open
time
to
with
devs,
But-
open to creation, open to creators.
Yeah, that's what they say their core DNA is. But has it ever taken off for Facebook in terms of they created a Facebook gaming platform as well?
It never took
They
off.
invited.
because they've had a very bad attitude towards developer when they see people started to make money or started to rake a lot of users because of all the privacy concerns and different other items.
And about the interoperability that you were saying,
Yeah.
I think if interoperability has not yet taken off on PS and Xbox, it is unlikely that Meta will be the reason why interoperability will take off in normal games. Like interoperability could exist right now in my Xbox and PS also. It's not like it was not needed. It was
How
always
so?
needed.
Like, are you saying between different games?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The
Oh,
platform is all. I'm saying a platform for gaming has always existed.
but yeah, I get it. Yeah. So Xbox also has an individual avatars of players.
Interoperability could happen by virtue of time. That now is the time in this world to get interoperability because people want it. Is Meta the reason for it, or will Meta be the reason for it? I don't think so.
But what are your thoughts on interoperability as a?
We were having a very interesting discussion that day. I was telling Paras that so what Ethereum.
First, Ayush, what is interoperability for our viewers so that they understand what we're talking about?
So in a simple definition, interoperability is that one asset that it can take across from one platform to another platform. For example, let's say I have a profile on Facebook. If tomorrow Instagram comes up, I have to create a new profile there. Whereas I have a history on Facebook, I cannot take my exact profile or social network and directly import to Instagram or let's say Snapchat. So, which means I do not have an interoperable asset, digital asset.
Or let's say a dating site, right?
Or-
Which is not in the Facebook universe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Or my gun in Call of Duty game,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I can't take to another.
Let's say you have
PUBG.
let's say you have paid $100 to buy one skin in Fortnite, but you cannot take that skin to Call of Duty or to any Clash of Titans or any other game, right? So that is non-interoperable asset. Whereas interoperable is that you can take it across. So we were having a discussion that day that what Ether has done. So before let's say before Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other tokens. Let's say we talk about Zerodha app. You have a Demat account there. Let's say you own 100 shares of SBI Bank, right? If you go to another Demat app like Grow, you cannot transfer this 100 shares from your Zerodha to Grow.
Yeah.
Or you have to do a lot of things.
Correct.
Which means that your shares are coupled with the UI.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
What Ethereum has done, they have decoupled this asset layer with the UI. So now you have Ethereum on the blockchain, or you have ABC token on the blockchain.
I can take it anywhere.
You can use it using Rainbow app. You can use it using MetaMask. You can
Use it on Uniswap, CowSwap.
Right. So suddenly asset has been decoupled from the UI, and UI you can use any UI based on your convenience.
Yeah.
So what if we similarly decouple the digital identity of a person, have it on chain, and now you can use it anywhere. So that will make a digital identity interoperable.
And are you saying that decoupling of digital identity will be much better in terms of PR or people's outlook towards it as compared to a centralized company like Facebook owning your digital identity and then going and cross collaborating with everyone?
Yeah. So the thing is that people are becoming wary of the fact that centralized systems are holding the data. and it can be used against them to market them something or to drive the decision in the world or whatever, right? So yes, people are becoming more wary about these things, and they want to protect their data. That's why a lot of cybersecurity, a lot of privacy first approaches are coming up. And I believe, yes, if it has happened to assets like Bitcoin, Ether, and other tokens, then why cannot it be done with the digital identity?
What I felt was that, Facebook kind of did support some kind of interoperability in terms of allowing other applications to, log in via Facebook. So it did give access to, basic information about the user, name, display picture, some XYZ, right? But now it didn't give access to the data, right? For example, as Facebook, I know a lot about Saransh, what their interest is, what are the kind of pages they're interested, what are the kind of sports. Now, that is something that is very relevant to any dating site, right? If I could pass that information and match someone who has very similar interests, right, that would be an instant match kind of a thing. But that is the core value proposition. I think even when they offer interoperability now, it will be something similar. It will be interoperability of like the assets you're talking about, let's say a gun, right? But how do I play that particular game, or what is the data set, how am I making those decisions? That information probably will never flow, in my opinion, because Facebook has realized, that's where the core business gets created, so they won't be able to pass that information. Interested to know what's your take on this.
Yeah. So I mean, if let's say that data is on chain, I mean, it's stored on chain, which is publicly accessible. So if I have a digital identity which has a lot of data and which is evolving, I mean, if let's say I've spent few minutes on the social network, so there's a new set of metadata which is attached to my asset now. Now it depends on the UI how they want to take this data. And I mean, if let's say I have a sword in my metadata, so then UI can read that metadata, and then it depends on the UI how it shows my sword in that particular user interface, right? So similarly, like as I was talking about, there are different wallets that I can use to access my asset. Every wallet shows my asset in a different manner. So the data is there and it is constant, it is evolving. I sign into any other app, then the metadata gets updated. So I mean, it is fairly possible for different UI and different apps to show my data in a very interesting way, and whichever shows me a better user interface or user experience, I might go there. And still I'm attached to my digital identity. It's like a soul bound token which I'm attached to, and it defines my identity throughout my journey. So I don't have to build my identity again and again on different platforms.
No, but if you extend this, let's say all digital assets, which I think Saransh was referring to. So let's say there is a gun with a power 30 in a game. If it goes to another game, what does that power 30 of the previous game mean in that game?
Will depend on that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, will depend on that game. So that game will get the data. I have a gun with a 30 bar, but that depends on that game. How it defines
power
that
they attribute
to that
game.
Yeah.
But if that asset flows in from, let's say, a game not so famous, like the NFT of that gun was sort of created in a game which is not so popular.
Yeah.
Now it comes to a game which is very popular.
Yeah.
How does it judge what kind of power should be given?
Got it. So very interesting thing that is happening right now is there is a group of people who have made this organization called Open Rarity. So what we are talking about is standardization of metadata, which is not there right now. So if you buy any NFT on OpenSea, they have their own set of metadata. So every project has a different set of metadata right now. So what this Open Rarity as a system, as an organization, so it's being done by like OpenSea, all the big gaming companies, all the big exchanges are part of this organization. So they are standardizing this metadata that you're talking about. Like once the metadata is standardized, if people know like whatever asset they are creating has to follow a certain standard, let's say ERC20, ER721 or a new standard that they're coming up with, then even if a small game is making that asset, they will be following a certain set of
So a standard
data.
for digital assets might come, which might solve for this.
Yes, exactly.
But I think like if something has to scale this big, like standardization can hold. Like I kind of don't buy that opinion, right? Something has to scale and so massively where different platforms will be coming. It's very difficult to get all of them to kind of agree on certain standards. And why would they want to also, right?
So, Saransh, what I also feel is, and guys, that standardization may not happen in dimensions or essentially the features of a digital asset. It may happen in currency, where let's say I have a 30 level power up, like a gun, right? And then during the development of the game, it would translate to some central currency, which would be which is where GameFi comes in, right? It would standardize across all planets of the metaverse. So the trading essentially would happen with that currency, and whatever yield that currency gives you, that would be traded on another platform. So I see a massive exchange of digital assets being formed inside individual metaverse, where people would trade items for one another via either that's a barter or that's through the centralized currency which dominates the whole metaverse. This is where I think Facebook is trying to go, that they are building those interoperable lines or channels, but they want to own the currency, and that is what they will trade, is what I feel. Seems like a
That's why you think they will push everyone on the platform for interoperability. Is this what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because the trade between digital assets is what makes money to the governments in the real world.
I think interoperability will really fly because of at that moment when interoperability becomes a feature of the platform. Let's say people want to go to a platform which is more interoperable with other metaverses. The day that pivot happens is when interoperability will suddenly exist out of nowhere, whether standards exist or don't exist, because some people want it. And I think that pivotal moment will happen when people have invested enough into a digital asset that now they want it to be interoperable everywhere. So suddenly, if there is a platform which does not let a Bored Ape keep their avatar as Bored Ape in a game, might lose that customer.
True.
Who's got a Bored Ape, who's a millionaire.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if people keep investing in digital identities, I think interoperability will automatically have to happen.
Also, that game will have to build certain features, or that planet will have to build certain features to incorporate Bored Ape skins onto their planet and make them go through the geography. Essentially, is what I.
Depends on what they're trying to mimic, right? Like if Metaverse is eventually trying to create a more immersive interaction experience, right? Then, like for example, if there's certain games like PUBG, they used to give you some dance moves, like right. If you keep playing to a certain level, you earn some dance moves, right? But if hand gesture is a dance move and that is a hand gesture I used to explain something, that has to be interoperable across, right? I can't keep it in a game. That is also an asset. Earning that particular dance move was also an asset, right? So, but again, didn't hold any value outside the ecosystem of that game. But there'll be what you're trying to solve for also kind of defines what all things would be basic need that has to be interoperable across, and what then becomes an add-on asset across the different applications, etc.
But guys, let's just bring this back to the hardware that has come forward in MetaConnect and the connector and the software, of course, which is inbuilt into the hardware. Where do you think is Meta over obsessing with the hardware play? Because the more weight you put on a hardware, high friction also exists to enter the ecosystem. Or do you think hardware is a game changer? It is just always expensive in the beginning. It will go down to $30.
I think all these
in 5
companies
years
have massively learned from Apple and understood that if you own the hardware, you own the software, you own the platform, you can build regression business models on top of it.
Steve Jobs was a mentor to Mark Zuckerberg. No wonder. No wonder.
And to Elon Musk, that's what Tesla is doing.
And to Elon Musk, of course.
These are the next computing platforms. Your smart glasses is the next computing platform going on to miniaturized smart lenses. That is how the future is going to unfold in the next 20 years.
And for someone who has burnt his fingers, losing out to data privacy for iOS and impacting the ad business heavily, I am sure that he wants to invest heavily in hardware this time, so that when Apple comes up with their own headset, they don't lose out on that data or don't miss out on getting their metaverse integrated to it, right?
True.
No, he wants to invest on the platform.
Yeah.
Either you make it totally free, like practically what Android does, or you own the hardware then,
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
cannot have both
Also, talk
at the
about
same time.
immersive, right? I cannot enter a metaverse on phone and feel as immersive. It will still be a game, right? And we know that gaming makes shitloads of money, but to push the human frontier next into the virtual world, they have to heavily invest on hardware. They are pushing the boundaries. For example, they in this MetaQuest in the Meta Connect only, they launched the capability of legs for the first time inside a metaverse. Till now, all you could see, and I use an Oculus, right? So all you could see is half of the body, half of the upper body, and hands. Now people can see other person's legs. So you see how slowly we are mimicking the real world, and not only that, the next big frontier over the next 2 or 3 years, which these guys will innovate, is high fidelity.
Yep.
Characters looking like CGIs, what you see in these animated movies, and then going to so this is called photorealistic figures. So that is the next step again, and it needs shitload of processing power to actually achieve that. 5G is going to enable that.
And
Miniaturization of chips is going to enable that.
Right.
Quantum computing is going to enable that.
Though I personally want photorealism to not fly that well.
Why?
It would just kill all the creativity that metaverse could bring.
Imagine-
Eventually, everyone looking like humans in metaverse
Who's
is just
saying
so
human?
boring.
Imagine a
dragon.
historic dragon looking like a fucking dragon.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Or creative new figures being looking so real that people actually get scared.
No, if you see the whole Connect, every time a person's avatar is walking in, they look like that person.
yeah.
Like it's depressing. I think
To me,
it's
Zuckerberg
very
looks
depressing.
Like an avatar. This is what you're talking to me. Zuckerberg looks like an avatar, man. I couldn't differentiate if he was in the metaverse or he was real.
Something weird is very happening according to me on the hardware front. First time when I tried Google Cardbox, have you tried
Yeah.
that?
Cardboard,
Of course.
Like
that
you
was
could
the first
put
one.
a smartphone inside a cardboard
Yeah.
box,
Yeah.
put it on your eyes, and you could have a close to immersive experience. Like what Oculus was that time, it was I think 70% close to that. Oculus was also very wired and heavy duty that time. Then Oculus has evolved massively. Though that thing didn't fly. Samsung launched their Gear VR box, didn't fly very much. Somehow I still feel it makes sense to give people entry into metaverse as an accessory to the smartphone or an add-on to the smartphone rather than going to an entirely different device. The way I see it is
How would you make it
to watch,
immersive?
like I'm saying, so watch coming in pair with the smartphone, like not as a selling smartwatches.
Yeah. Okay.
Smartwatch was not an independent device from day one. It was brought in as an accessory to smartphone. It felt more powerful because the processing could happen on the smartphone. Then slowly they are now making it sort of independent of the smartphone, which is also I think not very adaptive. Like it works better with the smartphone.
Yeah, that's true.
In the picture.
Yeah.
So what I was saying is
But why do you feel
What-
there is a need of that? Like, I'm trying to understand.
cost.
Hmm.
Cost goes immensely down if you don't have to go to an entirely different device, because you can shift a lot of computing and talking to servers to the smartphone.
Yeah, but if we would have been there in the Google Cardboard era, we would have never experienced the true immersive metaverse that Oculus. We could see in
Agreed.
Oculus,
No,
right?
but
Agreed.
I've had VR headsets in which I put the smartphone, and still it is not that great, because ultimately it's not only about the smartphone, it's about the lens quality, it's about the aperture, it's about the eye tracking. All of that cannot be just be enabled by a cheap device. And also what I feel is, if you just take your smartphone, right, and if you put it on your eye, this is a supercomputer right here. It is these come in various sizes, as big as the area which is required to cover your vision. So I just feel, as an independent device which Facebook is taking, seems like a better strategy, because the computing power inside a smartphone is only going to go up, the cost is only going to reduce, and edge computing is also coming in, where
most of the computation will happen on the end device rather than connecting with the cloud. With 5G coming in, I see a lot of things falling into place for this metaverse.
No, but in a way you are saying exactly what I was saying, that
Phones are
then
getting
why
faster.
if it's just about a screen, then why is another device needed? I'm saying it's not about the screen, it's about the sensors which do the hand tracking, legs
True,
tracking,
but I'm just
which
saying,
also I think can be added on.
No, I get it, but I'm just talking about the screen as a supercomputer fitted into this size form factor. That is all that I'm talking about. I'm not saying that screen needs to be fitted on the face. What I feel is an independent device.
Why is my question.
Yeah, so I was saying it's required because of the form factor, because of the eye tracking capabilities, because of the custom hardware which is required for the most immersive experience inside a virtual world. And now they've not only come up with the virtual world, they've come up with the augmented reality as well. There is a pass-through feature.
Augmented reality, mixed reality, agreed,
Mixed reality, where there's a
would not
pass-through feature
exist
where
as well.
I can just switch it on and I see the world as I see with my real eyes, with overlays of computer screens.
Not even that actually. Theoretically, that can also exist with a smartphone. I'm saying, of course, there must be practical reasons to why they've gone on to a separate hardware, but I find it hard to digest that
But it
theoretically
never flew.
everything can exist. It never flew, agreed.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean it will never
I
fly.
get it. But you're talking about the mass adoption, right? All of
Bring
this is just
10
to save the cost, right?
Bring 10 million people, yeah.
Hardwares come and they get adopted as per the use case. Paras. I understand your thought process of lower friction to kind of get entry into the metaverse, but like till the time we hadn't heard about mobile, we could never have thought what what if we would have tried to kind of mimic a desktop, which we have done actually, but like limit how a desktop functions to a mobile. Like mobile had multiple other features, right? Like different cameras, videos. Right now it's being also used like a just for shooting, recording purpose, right? So when you invest heavily in hardware, it has a separate roadmap altogether of where it might evolve. So I think something similar would also happen to the headsets. And personally, I think it's difficult to kind of use the same hardware rather than creating a separate one. As from what I can imagine, it would be easier to rather solve the two problems separately.
Yeah. Also, I'm also going back to the Newton pad, which Apple had, right? It was a miniature form of their Mac, the iMac, or Apple II, which they tried to do. It never flew unless they shifted to and we are going into the era of personalization, where every hardware is suited to an individual need, whether it's a portable coffee machine or a Roomba as well, right? So what I feel is that it feels like a much more better strategy to not build your whole business around a standardized device and then cut ends and lose corners to incorporate it, whereas build specialized.
The only reasonable explanation that is in my head, which helps me rationalize why Oculus Quest Pro exists, is that it is the only way to reach a smart glass.
Yes, correct. That's the
You
right
can't reach smart
That's the
glass
right
by putting a smartphone
Yeah.
into a gearbox.
Yeah.
It will be cheaper.
Yeah.
It can theoretically be done, and I'm very sure it can practically be done also. It has got a lot of sensors, but you will never reach a smart glass. You will never reach a smart lens. To reach that nature, you have to build in this area. Build for this area, keep squeezing it, eventually it will fit into something.
Let the
useful.
Moore's law kick in.
Also, yeah, we don't.
And
need
there is
to-
no, I think it's not really impossible that the smart glass actually process everything on the smartphone eventually. And there is no need to keep all processing here. There is a need to keep processing maybe right now because it's very heavy duty. A lot of things are native also. 5G doesn't exist everywhere. Probably later it's not needed.
Well, Starlink is there.
Starlink is there, cloud processing is there.
Yeah, it's gonna go.
Yeah.
Processing can go away, but the lens has to be there.
Yeah,
It'll become a screen. It's a visual. What do
You're
you
talking
call
about Google Glass.
No, it's a visual interface. It will become.
Google Glass was a bloody ambitious attempt. Yeah,
It was, yeah.
It was really something futuristic, which I think they'll get it back. It's only a matter of time. Because these guys have really rocked in the Pixel phones and given Samsung a run for its money. For sure.
Do you think Google will launch an open metaverse OS, more 3D
I think
friendly?
Alphabet could. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Google.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were just talking about that. No. Seems like a very maybe Android becomes the next metaverse for Google.
See winning the hardware game at least, like from the current players, like who do you think is going to come up at the top in the hardware game?
Apple.
In the hardware game, only one person
There's
wins.
only one king.
Customer. they will keep getting products for cheaper if the concept flies. Only the customer wins in hardware, and Apple wins in hardware, of course. Like you said,
Apple is the
only Apple and customer wins when it comes to hardware. No one else wins.
This is what I have to say, and I've discussed this with you guys also. A market is opened when Apple enters.
Yeah.
And
It
that
goes
is-
massive.
And that is when people look at it.
China moves on Apple's launches, not Meta's launches.
Yeah.
The moment Apple launches something, every factory in China will,
Yeah. And this has
will
happened
go
time and
after it.
again. Apple is the company, is the god of lust. People buy it. Yeah, people buy it for the status game, and the rich buy it, and that's when China moves. So
Yeah.
they happen in smartwatches.
Apple is
That's gonna happen.
Apple is the sin of 21st century.
I'm going to buy a 15,000 worth hardware. I'll rather make it a branded one than a non-branded.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But being an early adopter sort of becomes a part of the brand.
True.
I think that's why Meta is not doing a bad thing right now, that they're doing it. It becomes, if I own a Meta Quest Pro,
Yeah.
it tells a lot about me
Tells a
right
lot
now.
about you. Tells a lot
Because they're much ahead of
Although they
everyone
have reached
else.
1 million devices sold, right?
It's not bad.
It's not bad, but I still think that they haven't reached the early adopters. Crossing the chasm is tomorrow's problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Early adopter hits at 10 million devices is what I feel, where they start to see these network effects of a real economy being developed inside the
Real use cases,
Real use cases.
beyond gaming.
yeah.
No, PMF is when you're out of stock. Everywhere. MacBook Pros were out of stock and in waiting after COVID for 3 months also.
If your supply chain is
That
not
was a supply chain issue, I think.
Also demand, no, the laptops
Yeah.
demand massively went up
yeah.
after COVID.
Because
So
of work from home and
a lot of external reasons, of
Yeah.
course, but I think,
EMF is when the demand is chasing you instead of you chasing.
yeah,
Yeah.
true that.
that's true.
But yeah, where do you see the like you said, DAUs are 200,000.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't trust these numbers. But if there are a million devices and they are saying 200,000 DAU, I have not seen that kind of behavior around me with people who use or own VR headsets. Do you really think DAUs could be that high?
Bro, I'll tell you my use case. Alright, I got an Oculus. I bought apps inside it. I tried them. The real world right now is much more interesting.
Okay.
So I never felt the need to go back in. And
Okay.
I made friends inside. I traveled through the Horizon worlds. I played games with them. It's fine. I mean, they are not at that scale where they can compete with my reality, is what I felt. And for the early adopters who have money, right, who are entering these platforms, their real life is actually much more interesting than the virtual life. But the only thing is,
Interesting.
it is going to be salvation for people whose real life is not that great.
So do you think metric right now that they should be chasing, at least till the time they are focused on games, is that can they trump an Xbox's DAU by MAU? So for example, if a Xbox gets used 4 times a week for 2 hours per day, the moment Oculus is being used much more than that, they've achieved sort of
Right.
games PMF.
You're right.
Yeah.
And there are only
The-
two ways. There are only two ways they can reach it.
Interesting. So that mere brings me to the thought that Oculus has to crack PMFs across industries for the same device.
And for
Fitness separately,
Yeah.
game separately,
Till
work separately,
Yes.
separately.
Yes.
Till they reach that critical
Till they
mass.
reach that critical mass, and that is what they're doing by 2 sectors right now, which is gaming, where geeks sit inside a room and play games forever.
Learning curve is not a problem for
Learning curve
gamers.
is not a problem at all, and also for a highly technologically advanced device like Oculus, not a problem for gaming
Gamer,
geeks.
no.
The second is work, where
Work.
you're forced to use devices.
No, okay, that's one way of putting
Yeah.
it.
But you know what's
That's how
the
you
most
reach-
used?
that's how you reach down.
You know what's the most used app on Oculus?
Fitness?
Lightsaber. You played that, right?
Light?
The
Lightsaber
lightsaber
game.
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, I was listening to this podcast by the CTO of Oculus, and he was shocked by seeing the data of how many people was playing lightsaber, because they have built so much complex games in the Oculus, but people were using this very simple game,
Fly the plane.
lightsaber, because that was they never thought that people are going to use it for fitness, and lightsaber was a very good mix of a fitness and a gaming experience,
Yeah.
and a very individual
Yeah.
kind of an experience. When
It's the pinball of
it was
Oculus.
the pinball
It is the pinball of PCs could do much more than pinball, but pinball was pinball.
yeah, Minesweeper, pinball, like
Yeah.
those kind of things.
Its own learning curve, right? It's at the end of the day, it's a new thing. It will take people time to, experience it, get used to it. So I think this is one of those very simple games that anyone can go out and play. Although I ended up banging my hand on the bed while playing this as well, but still, I think it's a good, easy start.
And also one of the reason was that since it does not have a lot of complex hand movements, you just have to hold the saber. So the learning curve was very simple in the lightsaber, so it was very attractive to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which was very interesting. So yeah, I mean, all the learnings that we have had in the physical world, like why our life is more interesting, there is going to be a lot of different reasons why it's going to be interesting inside a metaverse or inside an Oculus. So yeah, I mean, it's a learning curve for the tech people in the Oculus team itself.
Yeah. I was listening to this Instagram influencer who uses her Meta Oculus, the previous one, mostly for fitness.
Yeah.
She does at-home classes,
Yeah.
and the interface was such that 8 people were standing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a class. It was not a solo class.
Nice.
She could see other people also doing fitness.
That's very cool.
Yeah, these kind of multiplayer experiences are going to gonna make
And
people
she was
stick.
like, she profusely sweats after a session, and it's immersive. It feels like it's a class.
Yeah, it's definitely
Very cool.
Isn't bulky to do it with the.
I mean,
That's what
it's
is
definitely
getting
for
solved,
short
right?
durations, like
Yeah.
half an hour, 15 minutes that you can do.
I think
small bursts.
You can't do
of
burpees probably, but you can
Yeah.
do boxing. We've done boxing,
Oh,
right?
we have done boxing.
Boxing
It
is
was so-
intense.
it was crazy.
15-20 minutes.
In
You've
fact,
done
you
very
guys
good
think-
exercise.
You remember that Xbox came up with a device called Kinect,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And that's what we use.
It is
a
like
lot for.
this is the evolved version of Kinect.
Yeah, it was LiDAR.
LiDAR.
Yeah, they were using LiDAR
LiDAR.
technology. And people used to box. We used to play football, and that's
Tennis.
Table tennis.
Yeah.
And I think that is the transition which obviously the Oculus would have also seen.
Yeah, which we'll see again coming towards Kinect with Meta Quest Pro, because now AR again. So it's
Yeah.
like coming back to the same circle.
Yeah, mixed
Cool.
reality is going to be much bigger than virtual reality.
Virtual reality, yeah.
Is what I feel. So
Best of both worlds.
creating products for mixed reality first, and entrepreneurs thinking about mixed reality first is something which is going to boom. Is just my take on it.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
anyway, guys, this was great.
This is fun.
Thanks a lot. I think we have deep dived a lot into VR, AR, Metaverse, and related technologies like Oculus. But until next time, thanks a lot. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.